We have children in this audience, teenagers that go to some of our local high schools. I was not a stellar student, and my family was extremely poor. They were not connected. Neither one of them ever had the means to attend college. But like RBG, my parents taught me the love of learning and taught me to care about other people and taught me to work hard for whatever I wanted and for whatever I believed in. Another common denominator that I shared with RBG was that we both had to care for our first baby while we were in law school.
I'm a local girl, ordinary like anybody else. I wasn't a person who was connected to any particular pathway to success. It certainly wasn't a foregone conclusion that I would be doing anything like what I'm doing today. But I was very fortunate to wind up in a position to impact tremendous change within not only our community but our country, and to do so through the practice of consumer protection and public interest law. So my thoughts about the Supreme Court packing issue is that the Republicans have been packing the court for 50 years. I mean, if you look back, the Democrats in the last 50 years have put 4 justices on the Supreme Court. All the rest of them were appointed by Republicans. So that court has been packed for a long time by a long gerrymandered system and by decisions by people like Mitch McConnell to not permit Merrick Garland to be appointed during Obama's presidency. So, you know, I think the real danger of Supreme Court packing, that ship's already sailed. You know, that's happened. You have the Supreme Court that you have in its composition today as a result of decisions made by Republicans, not by Democrats.
Ours is a country where ordinary people can do extraordinary things. The next thing that I want us to think about together are the differences between when RBG came out of law school and the experiences that I've had in my lifetime. Here's just a few differences from the time when RBG got out of law school. When she graduated, a woman could be legally fired for being pregnant in most states. Most banks could require your husband to co-sign in order for you to get credit. This is in my lifetime when she got out of law school. And in 12 states, a man could never be prosecuted for raping his wife. Most importantly to me, a woman did not have control over her own body at that point in time. She did not have the right to choose whether to terminate a pregnancy. Women were undeniably second-class citizens. At that point in time, the Supreme Court didn't even understand gender-based discrimination. She famously quoted another great woman in her first oral argument before the Supreme Court. She said, "I ask no favor of my sex. All I ask of our brethren is that they take their feet off of our necks." You and I are undeniably the benefactor of RBG's work. For today, we can obtain our own credit to run our own businesses. And I and my brave sisters in arms could serve in the military alongside men with very important jobs. We can choose when and will we will have children. And it's illegal to fire a woman today for the simple fact that she's pregnant. RBG was appointed to the Supreme Court in 1993, and that was when I was in law school. Through her opinions and the work of so many others, and many of you, I talked to several of you women out here that came from distant states and worked on important precedent that helped to establish these sort of rights that justice that we enjoy today. Through her opinions and the work of all of you, the America that we were all born into is one of greater freedom, one of blossoming equality, and one of justice. 4 years ago, I don't know about you guys, but I felt extremely optimistic about women in America before the Cheeto Jesus got elected. We literally had the first major party candidate slated to become the first woman president of the United States. We had women CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. We had more women in the United States Congress than at any point in history. And I was the owner of a small little law firm, and I was doing big things, extraordinary things. But these things are in peril today. More so today than when I was in law school, for certain. Not because the Constitution and the laws have changed dramatically, but rather it's because people in power today have poisoned the hearts and minds of so many Americans that do not see these changes that we're applauding today as progress. They look back at an airbrushed history with some sort of sense of nostalgia, like those were the good old days. They no longer hear our pleas for equality and justice and see that young little girl from Marion County and what she might do for this nation if they would but take their feet off of our necks. Yeah. No, I think that the response that we see today is largely driven by fear, and you know that's true. That is the power that's driving them. But it cannot be what drives you. It brings me to my last point today. Do not work from fear. We don't have the time or the energy to worry. We only have the time and energy to work. That work includes speaking out. I want you to speak out, not only first with your power to vote, and second with your ability, just like the previous speaker asked you, to go and get 5 people and take them and make sure they exercise their right to vote. But we all have that one person in our life that only we can reach. Think about it right now. I ask you to ask yourself, who's one person in my life that perhaps I could reach, that maybe only I can reach, and talk about these issues, speak to them. We no longer have the luxury that we used to have of politically declining political conversation and debate. Because in recent years, very recent years, we've seen Justice Scalia write that there's no longer a need for affirmative action, discrimination's over. We've seen opinions from Justice Roberts completely derailing the Voting Rights Act. And now, I believe that a woman's right to choose is in tremendous peril. So you must speak. You must speak to power. You must call your senators. And you must tell them that this matters to you so much that you will punish them. You will punish them in the voting box and in the media, and you will speak. Even if your voice shakes, you must speak to power now. You might just be the only person who is heard by a young woman in Marion County that inspires her, and it may make all the difference in her lives. Thank you very much. You have to have Supreme Court justices that are in some manner in touch with the population whose rights they're determining. Supreme Court interprets the Constitution, determines what your rights are every day. And if those people are completely out of touch with the general population and not sensitive to that, you wind up with crazy opinions like the one that I mentioned during my speech by Justice Scalia, who said, we don't need affirmative action because discrimination is over. And, you know, when you have a justice that's sat on the court for a long time and is not reflective of the general population or the majority of the population, you're definitely inclined to have interpretations that are more attributable to their connections to the administration that put them in office. One thing that I tried to say today in my speech is let's not work out of fear. And I think that a lot of these concerns about
what a future Biden administration is going to do are unfounded. We do not know. And likewise, I hate to say it, but is absolutely polar opposite as I am to Amy Coney Barrett, we also should not rush to judgment to say that she's definitely going to rule one way or the other way. We don't need to work out of fear. Let's just work with the rules that we've got. Let's play fairly and trust that that thread of common sense that runs through the very fabric of who we are as Americans is going to be there among sensible leaders. That only holds true in my mind when we're electing sensible leaders. We do not have that. For the first time in my lifetime, we do not have a rational leader. That's the missing ingredient here. When you have rational leaders, we don't have to work at it from a place of fear that the Supreme Court is going to upend critical rights and upend our Constitution. When we're not working out of a place of fear because we have an irrational leader, we don't have to worry about civil wars erupting.
Those are our guys out there.
Thank goodness. For the first time, all the loud screaming during our rally was rather offensive.